submitted under cover letter dated June 26, 2024, the plan set. And whereas the planning board previously granted the applicant an erosion sediment control permit to establish a 1.75 acre pond on the property, but the applicant established a smaller pond under the permit, and whereas the applicant now desires to increase the size of the pond to that which was originally proposed, and whereas the property is located in the RC zoning district and within County Agricultural District 21, and whereas the applicant has submitted an ESC permit application, including a short environmental assessment form, or EAF, dated June 25, 2024, pursuant to the State Environmental Quality Review Act, or SECRA. And whereas in accordance with SECRA, the planning board is required to determine the classification of the proposed project, and whereas pursuant to 6 NYCRR section 617.5 subsection C subsection 4, agricultural farm management practices, including construction, maintenance, and repair of farm buildings and structures, and land use changes consistent with generally accepted principles of farming are type 2 actions, and whereas on July 15, 2024, the planning board classified the action as a type 2 SECRA action, and whereas on July 15, 2024, the planning board referred the project to the Dutchess County Department of Planning and Development pursuant to section 239-M of the General Municipal Law, which responded on July 19, 2024, that it was a matter of local concern. And whereas on August 26, 2024, duly noticed public hearing was held, during which all those who wished to speak were heard. Now therefore be it resolved that the planning board hereby grants the applicant an erosion sediment control permit for disturbance as shown on the plan set, subject to the following conditions. 1, submission of $1,000 to be placed into escrow to cover the cost of site inspections by the town engineer. 2, submissions of a performance guarantee in the amount of $14,450 in form, substance, and matter of execution satisfactory to the town board and town attorney. Be it further resolved that as a continuing condition of the erosion sediment control permit, the applicant shall
Implement
the timber rattlesnake take avoidance measures referenced in correspondence from the Department of Environmental Conservation dated June 6, 2024. Be it further resolved that before the authorized official may issue a certificate of compliance for work completed in accordance with the erosion sediment control permit, the planning board engineer shall provide the authorized official with a written statement indicating that all work authorized under the permit has been completed and is satisfactory. The erosion sediment control permit shall expire 1 year from the date of this resolution. This resolution is being offered by
So moved.
Member Palmer, seconded by
Second.
Member Roman. Discussion. Seeing no discussion, resolution granting erosion sediment control permit approval, erosion sediment control permit for farm pond expansion. Secretary, please call the roll.
Give me a minute. Member Sador,
Aye.
Member Roman,
Aye.
Member Palmer,
Aye.
Member LaRopidier, Chairman Cortine.
Aye. This resolution is adopted by a vote of 5-0 with 2 absences. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Next we have, under old business, 10 Mile River Preserve Activity Barn. Just give me a moment here. Saved it. It's saved.
Good boy.
Thanks. I appreciate
So proud of you.
Okay.
Getting there, Ryan.
Alrighty.
Okay. Whenever you're ready.
Alrighty. Hello again. You guys know who I am. So we're here tonight for the 10 Mile River Preserve Activity Barn, being pursued as a private membership club under zoning, which is permitted using a special use permit. The project property is 156.3 acres, where there is an existing agricultural development on the eastern side of the site. It's also a residence to the south, but that's not really involved in this application. So the applicant is proposing to convert an existing 10,000 square foot agricultural barn into the activity barn, which is used to supplement the existing 10 Mile River Preserve membership club. So the idea is that members would be able to rent the facility for the day to be able to have an event, as there is a recreation room, there's some outdoor patios proposed, a pickleball court, there's going to be a bowling alley, there's going to be a dining space for 60 people. So again, this is not a restaurant, this is just a dining space with a kitchen that could be rented by members and used to serve people who are attending their event in the building. Also proposed is a new septic system designed for the wastewater of that kitchen and use. And in general, that's pretty much it. There's a reconfiguration of the existing gravel parking area out there. But overall, it is just a more of an adaptive reuse of an existing structure. I believe we've pretty much adequately answered all the outstanding comments from Aaron's letter, but happy to answer any comments that the board may have.
Okay. A moment. All right, I don't have any comments at this time. Member Lamont? No. Member Sador?
Nope.
Member Lorbeer? Okay, Member Palmer?
No comment.
No, okay. All right. Let's go to Planner Warner.
Sure. So you mentioned private recreation club, but this is really, it's a special permit for a recreation business still, correct?
Correct,
Okay,
yes.
Just wanted to clear that up. 'Cause
Sorry,
that's-
my bad.
That's fine. Because that's what the first comment was getting at. There was some question about how this is going to be treated as far as the actions of the board, and I think everyone's all in agreement at this point that it's a new special permit specific to this piece of the overall
Right.
holding.
Because the definition's changed in the last 20 years.
It has, yeah. So that it'll be a recreational business special permit that'll be applied to a portion of a very large parcel.
Okay.
Okay. The second comment from June was mentioning that this requires county referral, but we didn't have enough information yet to do that referral last time, including the fact that it needed an EAF. That's been provided. The site plan's been updated to address the comments, and they also provided an EAF. So I think at this point we have enough information to make the referral to the county. You could also make a secret classification as well as an unlisted action. It doesn't seem to be a coordinated review for this application, so just note that. And also, in addition to referring to the county, it may be appropriate to get the J.H. Ketchum Host Company to take a look at this, just because it's going to have 60 people at a time. It's going to have a kitchen. If they have any concerns about responding in an emergency, they can take a look at the plans too. Again, I'll just focus on new or outstanding issues. Going down to number 6, there was some discussion at the last appearance about the amount of disturbance, how since the property is pretty large, there might be other activities happening on the property that are more in line with agricultural use. It seems like that's been resolved, that the disturbance for this project is pretty small. It doesn't really rise to the level of needing the Speedies permit or associated SHPO weigh in on that. I think Joe would agree, but I'll defer. Okay. So that's what number 6 is getting at. Also, the fact that this site, around this building has been disturbed, it's been used for agriculture, there's been excavation, there's been trampling of the ground by livestock, etc. It's really not, even though there's a flag for archaeology, I don't think that what the work that's proposed for this rises to the level of needing to do any kind of archaeological investigation around the building. So we don't recommend anything further on that. Number 7, there's been, they did provide the architectural elevations that are required. We noted there wasn't anything about lighting, so if that's something that can be added to those elevations, if there's lighting on the building. The floor plans are also not provided. It seems like that would be important. I know that the site walk occurred, and it seemed like some of the work was already complete inside the building. I wasn't there, but it's what I heard from my colleague that attended.
There's definitely work that has happened.
It's happening.
Space has been filled
Yeah.
in, and
I believe that was under
Everything was
the
there to
former
build the bowling
building
alley?
permit that they were able to obtain, but I haven't visited the site on this one.
I think the bowling alley wasn't built, but it looked like everything was there to build the bowling alley.
Mm-hmm.
Right, but there's various uses proposed in here. There's a kitchen and dining space, a bowling alley, a suite for accommodation, overnight accommodations.
I mean,
Part of the board's
I think it's
role
really
is
just one. It's like one accommodation, right?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Yeah.
how many is it? Is it bunk beds, like a bachelorette party? Is it?
bunk beds.
Yeah.
I don't know how many resorts you stay at where there's one room and it's bunk beds, but I could check. I'm going to assume no.
The entire activity barn is for the kids.
But I mean, is
There's
it,
also a slide
is
that.
That'd be cool.
like, is
Sorry,
it
it
a
would be
suite
cool.
for
Fire
one
pole.
single bed, or are there multiple sleeping areas?
I just believe it's the one suite, but I will. Yeah, it's just the one lodging unit, but I will double check
No, I
to
got
see
one
what sort
unit.
of bed. Yeah.
I just trying to
How many
understand.
beds are there?
Well, just a question.
So we know there's capacity for 60 guests at a time, and that's what you've maintained is what will be the
big bed.
maximum occupancy.
It's a California king. So.
The comment was really getting at, you have elevations, you don't have floor plans. That's something that you can ask for, because there are multiple uses proposed in the building. You might want to be interested in what that's going to look like from a
I
floor
would like
plan
to just
perspective.
note that they're all recreational uses too, and it's
Correct.
more, get an approval for the building, the outside.
Uh-huh.
So.
Just something for the board to consider.
What comment
I
are
know-
we on now?
What's that?
The last comment I have.
7.
7.
Okay, it is 7. Okay, that's where I am.
But if you can address the question about outdoor lighting, that would be helpful.
Okay.
So moving down to comment number 8 is pretty lengthy. It's just covering the sections of the code that that apply the areas of 145-52.1 that we felt were relevant to this application, and they've provided responses to each in their cover letter. Mainly that the improvements are proposed on the rear and side of the building. They're screening them. They have a proposed hedgerow. They have privacy fencing. So they're showing that they're complying with Section A of the comment about buffering uses and views. Section B is more about if there's future plans. The code kind of requires there to be a master development plan for additional recreational uses. It sounds like this is the only thing proposed at this time, so that's how they responded to that. Section C was about large events, which the town defines as 500 guests or more. In this case, they're not meeting that threshold. They're saying that it could be up to 60 at a time and on a part-time and seasonal basis. So it doesn't meet that definition of a large event. And then Section D was about the floor plan and how the board does have discretion to increase the floor plans up to 20,000, or the footprint up to 20,000 square feet. In this case, they're not exceeding 20,000, but they are expanding slightly over what's existing. And I think there was some additions built on the barn already that were. It's unclear if they were permitted or not. I know that was something that was observed out there, but either way,
Well,
I'll have to double check.
Okay.
Because I was just presented what the applicant's plans for the future is, but
Right. Yeah, no, I'm just saying, if you look at the aerials of what the building
aerial
was.
showed
You could
it,
see
yeah.
near the kitchen, something was built, and I guess the corner where the bowling alley is, something, you know, it was
Right.
made whole. I don't know how else to put it.
Okay. Let's see. Going down to number 9 was just site plan requirements, and the only thing that we're reiterating is lighting. We didn't see a plan for that. Location, height, intensity, and bulb type for any external fixtures. Number 10 has to do with the proposed hedge, which is going to serve as a fence, and according to your code, hedges are included in the provision regarding setback requirements for fences. So we called out that if those are going to be over 6 feet, the arborvitae row, that would have to be subject to setback requirements. And the previous plan that was before you showed that they weren't meeting the setback requirements. So their response, the applicant's response, is that they propose to maintain the height of that to 6 feet, so that they wouldn't have to deal with the setback non-compliance. So
On the
that's something that
sidewalk,
can be.
wasn't it also alternatively discussed about, you could have, I forgot what those skinny, tall trees are.
The evergreens?
Yeah, like just.
Yeah, those are the
That's what's
arborvitaes. They
proposed,
kind of
yeah.
grow more in a linear tube-ish shape.
Right.
Right. They're, green giant arborvitae,
Yeah.
that's the technical
Yep.
name of them.
But I mean, you could have a whole series of trees, and that's not a hedgerow, I guess. And that could be whatever height.
I guess it depends. Is it a hedge? The arborvitae kind of.
They do kind of blend together.
Yeah.
Or-
Typically, they are used for hedges, but
Yeah.
we're trying to keep them low to conform with that requirement and continue to give it the natural vibe.
Sure.
So that can be a condition, that's 6 foot height be maintained, or else they wouldn't be in compliance. Number 11 was just adding questions about, they added some clarity that there's 5 parking spaces for employees that they've added along the farm road, should they be needed.
And again, what was discussed was, because 21 parking spaces does not sound like enough for 60 people, but that there might be some transportation from the main building to the south.
Yep.
Okay.
They did provide the narrative, number 14, talks about the narrative or the requirements that the findings that the board has to make for a special permit, which are under 145-63. They've provided a draft narrative about how they comply with those findings, so when you get to that point, that can be reviewed in detail and discussed. Seeker, they did submit the long form EAF as requested, since it's a major project technically and requires that per the code. The site visit, just noting that what we originally had thought about as far as endangered species archaeology, that's been confirmed given the nature of the disturbance that's taken place out there, and it doesn't look like this will cause any issues to any archaeological resources or habitat for threatened and endangered species. So I think what they've provided is, so far with the part 1 is sufficient. Lastly, number 16, we asked a little bit more information about traffic levels and, overall attendance, frequency of events, etc. They provided a response that I quoted directly in the memo. It's a private membership club. It's a secondary activity for that private membership club. According to the applicant, parking areas will not be regularly used, nor is traffic levels intended to increase. The site will be used irregularly, therefore a regular increase in traffic is not anticipated. And when events are held, the majority of traffic will arrive and depart over several hours before and after the event. Our position has always been, and if you go by the guidance for seeker and the DOT and the DEC's EAF workbook, basically is if you have a use that you're expecting 100 peak hour trips, it warrants a traffic study. In this case, they've maintained that there's a maximum of 60 guests. The events are going to be, I assume, mostly weekends, irregularly. They haven't really provided how many events they anticipate per year, but it's not a regular occurrence, and therefore it's more of a occasional generator of traffic that wouldn't really trigger a detailed traffic study because of the trip generation being under 100 peak hour trips. And by peak hour, we're talking about the morning peak hour, the midday peak hour, and the evening peak hour. If you remember the Harlem Valley Homestead project, that was a lot more guest units proposed, a lot of events proposed. So that did require a little more, and I did a traffic study for the main intersection that gets people to the site. In this case, they're talking about traffic would be mostly originating from the existing membership club area,
Or,
Plus-
again, if you just give them an address, hey, we're having
Right.
this event.
plus invited guests.
Right.
So
Again, not more than 60 because the restaurant can't.
Correct.
this
Not
could
the
be
restaurant,
something,
the
you know,
dining
in
area.
Mhm.
Can't,
still have to set a public hearing. There could be some concerns from the public about traffic, so that's still an open item that we can discuss if it comes to that. But, you know, I've cited the guidance. I don't think it's something that rises to the level of needing a detailed study.
Okay.
I'll leave it at that. As far as the recommendations, I think you can classify it as unlisted. It'll be an uncoordinated review. We're recommending it refer to the county for 239M, refer to the J.H. Ketchum Hose Company, and I think you're ready to set a hearing for September.
Okay. Thank you, Planner Werner. Attorney Polidoro? Anything about the California King bunk beds or?
Ooh, bunk beds. That would be even cooler.
You laugh. I'm just struggling to understand why there's only one unit in a party location.
This
But
could be like the bridal suite or, I don't know, something. Something.
we have a resolution prepared that implements Planner Werner's recommendations for
Right.
tonight.
And then separately, we'll have a vote on the setting a public hearing.
Yes.
All right. Engineer Berger?
The only questions I have is relevant to the septic and the well. Have you started the preparation of the design for submission, or are you holding off?
We've submitted into the Dutchess County.
Okay, and based on 60 people in one bedroom, it was under 1,000 gallons.
It was
I
the
saw.
banquet use, which I believe is like
50
an 8,
15
yeah.
gallons.
So,
So 15 gallons per plus the 110 for the bedroom, probably.
yes, yep.
Okay, so you're under the
Would put you
1,000.
at 1,010,
No, 15 times 60 would be 900.
900 plus 110 is
No, it's-
1,010.
But you could take a 75% credit, so it's under 110.
I was just doing the math. I don't know.
But what they would do is, if you're using chambers, 75% of the 110.
Mm-hmm.
So it gets, you
Now
can
you've
reduce
lost
it
me.
under the 1,000 because of that.
Yep, that's exactly what we're doing.
That's what I would do. So it's 1,010 minus 25% of 110.
Mm-hmm.
So your application into Dutch County Health Department is based on that. On the 60 units, what's your position on the non-community public well requirements being over 25?
I'm going to defer to the health department on that one, just because it's kind of up in the air of whether or not it's a regular use.
So you
versus-
submit it, and we're waiting for the comments. So the board, if you're typically 5 or more specific units, which they aren't here because it's one,
Right.
even though they're different uses, or over 25 individuals, a non-community public well permit is typically required.
Right.
And the only thing that changes, it's still well, but it's going to be monitored instead of a residential where they drill it and put it into place.
Right.
So there'll be full 502, which is the standard, near state standard for water quality is going to be tested. The 24-hour pump test, maybe a 4-hour pump test, all of which the health department will control.
Right.
But we'll want to have results for our records.
Does that anticipate that it's like 25 people every day or 25 people 5 days a week? Or, I mean, if it's 60 people every other week,
It's over a certain period of time, so if it's not 25 every day, but if it's once a month, it won't count.
right.
So it is, so they would probably respond back to you on how often are you going to be using this. I don't know if you presented that to them, but there'll be, if they feel that it's not exceeded their minimum standard, you'll get a condition from the health department, which our building inspector should know about, that only so many times. So churches, for
Right.
comparison, churches who go once a week,
Sure.
are subject to the 25.
Right.
And they have to do a non-community transit public well
I
permit.
see.
So
Can they
if
mitigate
you're
it
going
with
to have
like
a
a-
function there every week, 52 weeks a year, you're probably going to be subject to it.
Can they mitigate it with like a storage tank that would draw the water up over time? And
Yeah, you would probably most likely need a small storage tank and a treatment tank in this area. You
Right.
know, we have iron and manganese.
a lot of hard water, yeah.
Yeah, we do. But it's not, cumbersome. It's
It's
pretty.
all part of the process.
But it's, the only reason I stated is so it's on our site plan approval, so the building inspector knows what's going on. That's the only reason, so it's there. To monitor, not to control, since it's a health department control, but so the information is presented to us on the site plan.
Right.
That's the only reason I'm asking. And those are my only questions.
Thank you. Having heard from our consultants, any members of the planning board have any additional comments, questions at this time? Okay. All right, so, anything you wanted to add before we?
Nope. Sounds good.
All right, resolution classifying the action and referring the project to the Dutchess County Department of Planning and Development, 10 Mile River Preserve Activity Barn, whereas the applicant, 10 Mile River Farm LLC, has made an application for a site plan, special use permit, and architectural review board approval to convert an existing barn complex into a quote-unquote activity barn. There's a project identified as 280 and 290 Sand Hill Road, tax lot number 7162-00-048775, known as the property. And whereas the property is located in the RU district as well as the floodplain and aquifer overlay districts, and whereas the recreational business is a permitted use in the RU district, subject to site plan and special use permit approval, and whereas the project is depicted on a plan entitled 10 Mile River Preserve Activity Barn prepared by Rennie Engineering Design, PLLC, sheets 0 of 5, 1 of 5, 2 of 5, 3 of 5, 4 of 5, and 5 of 5, dated July 17, 2024, and architectural plans entitled Proposed Exterior Elevations, prepared by Gwen Mulcahy, RA, sheets A300 and A301, dated October 10, 2023, collectively known as the site plan set. And whereas the applicant has submitted a full environmental assessment form, or EAF, dated August 7, 2024, pursuant to State Environmental Quality Review Act, or SECRA. Whereas in accordance with SECRA, the planning board is required to determine the classification of the proposed project, and whereas pursuant to 6 NYCR section 617.4 and 617.5, a project that is neither type 1 nor type 2 is unlisted.
The double was,
Intentional,
it was intentional, but that's okay.
because there's 2.
Yes.
You wouldn't just put it after,
Really?
it shouldn't go
I
here.
mean, it's archaic. You can take it out. I'm just letting you know that it wasn't a typo.
That's fine.
So if you reference 3, would it be 3? Sorry, I had to ask.
No, that's a good question.
It just means multiple.
Okay.
Oh, so if there's 5.
But you can move it over so it reads better. That's fine.
Whereas pursuant to 6 NYCR section 617.4 and section 617.5, a project that is neither type 1 nor type 2 is unlisted, and whereas the property is located within 500 feet of Dutchess County Agricultural District 21, and whereas pursuant to section 239 -M of the General Municipal Law, a project located within 500 feet of a county agricultural district must be referred to the Dutchess County Department of Planning and Development for a report and recommendation thereon. Now therefore be it resolved that the planning board hereby, 1, classifies the project as an unlisted action under SECRA and determines to conduct an uncoordinated review. 2, directs the secretary to refer the project to the Dutchess County Department of Planning and Development pursuant to GML section 239-M. And 3, directs the secretary to refer the project to the J.H. Ketchum Hose Company Incorporated and the Dutchess County Department of Behavioral and Community Health for review. Is that still the name?
Did it change?
I know it was proposed to change the name of the health department
I think
to,
it's still the same.
it's still that. I didn't know if they haven't changed it yet. Okay. All right. Okay. I know they're looking to change the name, so. They are. Okay, they haven't changed it yet.
Change it back to Health Department?
Like 2 or 3 separate departments ago.
Yeah, no, it's just going to expand.
All right. This resolution is being offered by
So moved.
Member Palmer, seconded by Member Lorberdier. Discussion. Seeing no discussion, resolution classifying the action and referring the project to the Dutchess County Department of Planning and Development for 10 Mile River Preserve Activity Barn. Secretary, please call the roll.
Member Sador.
Aye.
Member Roman.
Aye.
Member Palmer.
Aye.
Member LaRobertier. Chair Cortine.
Aye. This resolution is adopted 5-0 with absences. Okay. Let's see, the next meeting is September 16th. So a motion to hold a public hearing for 10 Mile River Preserve Activity Barn on September 16th, 2024, at 7 p.m. or soon thereafter, as the planning board can hear from the public. This motion is made by
So moved.
Member Palmer, seconded by
Second.
Member Sador. Discussion?
What is the date?
Okay, seeing no discussion, all those in favor of setting a public hearing as stated, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say no. Okay, that motion passes 5-0, 2 absences. Anything further regarding 10 Mile River Preserve Activity Barn this evening?
Peter, stop by and pick up the sign.
Yes, ma'am.
Just that there's a
Where's
chance
the
that
sign go? It's a big property, and
I'm just going to post it right in front of the existing entrance by the barn.
I guess that makes sense. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I was just going to add that it's likely that we won't have a response from the county planning. Maybe we will, but, you know, they're required to have 30 days, and
Yeah, I mean, they're not the DEC. So. We'll see.
we'll talk about it. Yep.
Yeah. We always have another meeting, so.
Perfect.
All right. Thank you.
Alrighty, thanks everyone.
All right. Okay, next on the agenda is just simply a vote on the Starkdale Farm site walk. I don't think there's anyone here from Starkdale Farm. No. Okay. And that's fine. It was, we discussed at the previous meeting that we would share some dates for a proposed site walk. So what is proposed is to have a site walk for members of the Dover Planning Board and our consultants on Saturday, September 7th. Thank you. Which, that's a date that worked. Maybe not for everybody, but that's what we got to figure out. And then a proposal of either 8 or 9 a.m. So I guess check your calendars. What was also discussed, myself and forgot who. I guess the Attorney Polidoro was to invite the Pauling Planning Board members. So part of this vote would be to request our secretary to reach out to the Pauling Planning Board.
Sure.
All right. 8 a.m.
Starkdale is going to be on their agenda. Is that September? Go to September on your calendar.
That's August. And to be clear, they did not meet last Monday.
No, they're not next
Saying that
Monday,
they were
it's the
going. It was
Tuesday.
discussed at our meeting that they were going to meet with the Pauling Planning Board on the 19th. That didn't
But they
happen.
did not.
Right. Okay.
They are going to be meeting on the Tuesday in September,
Which,
the first Tuesday, right
so the
after
third,
the
the day
holiday.
after Labor Day. Okay. So the Pauling,
Okay.
as of right now, what we know is that the Pauling Planning Board meeting Tuesday, September 3rd.
September,
Okay. All right. So the motion would be to authorize a site walk for members of the planning board and our consultants on Saturday, September 7th at 8 a.m. Is that a problem for anyone?
No problem for me.
Okay.
Is there, do they have any kind of idea about how we're gonna get around?
That's something we got to figure out.
Because normally with a site that large, they usually have four-wheelers or
Right.
jeeps,
Something.
something.
So horses.
We need to,
Horses.
we need to speak with, yeah, I'll speak with their attorney.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So we're saying Saturday, September 7th, 8 a.m. And directing our planning board secretary to communicate that this is open to members of the planning board if they would like to
I will do that.
attend. Motion made by myself, seconded by
Second.
member Palmer. Discussion.
Do we have a rally point?
I would say the Starkdale, across from the Starkdale house. There's a barn there.
The barn where the silos are.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Quiet Place Part 2 tried to burn it down, but it's still there. So, okay. Motion made by myself, seconded by member Palmer. Any further discussion? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed say no. That motion passes 5-0 with 2 absences. Okay. New business. We got Harlem Valley Homestead on here 3 times.
3 times? I only saw it twice. Maybe the third's a surprise for me.
Maybe.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So Neil Alexander on behalf, from Cut and Block, on behalf of the applicant, Harlem Valley Homestead. Josh Vertel is with me in the room. I think the first one, I now realize how you say 3. Yes, okay. I wrote my letter as two separate letters. So I think the subdivision is first. So this is basically what has happened is we granted on March 6th of 2023 a subdivision approval for this project overall. We've been before you twice before to get 180-day extensions.
Mm-hmm.
We have now are seeking our third 180-day extension.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll see in my letter, I do have my understanding of the math. From the original approval plus the first 100, plus the second 100, plus the third 180 days, would be 720 days from March 6th, which according to the online date calculator that I used, came out as February 23rd, 2025. So we've been making a lot of progress. And in fact, the health department has signed the Mylar at this point. And so we're getting there, but we're
Okay.
not there yet. So we were hoping you would grant us a third 180-day extension as your statute sets it up in your code as a series of a total of no more than 8 180-day extensions. So that's why we asked for, you've been asking for them serially to give you updates.
Okay. Any members of the planning board have any questions? Just in your letter, after or as part of your request for the extension, you talk about the Article 78,
Yes.
and it was dismissed in its entirety, and the approvals that the planning board granted for the applicant's project on the premises were upheld as properly granted in a 23-page decision order. Anything further there? Attorney Polidoro?
The Article 78 trial court level's done. We won, as did the town. A notice of appeal was filed, and an appeal to the appellate division was perfected.
Okay.
So on we go in that venue.
Attorney Polidoro, anything regarding that, it does not prevent us from doing what we're doing today.
No, they haven't applied for any kind of TRO or stay, so the
Okay.
project proceeds.
All right. Thank you. Planner Werner, anything to add?
No comments.
All right. Engineer Berger?
No comments.
All right, thank you. All right, having heard from our consultants, members of the planning board, any comments, questions? Okay. Let's see. All right, resolution to grant third 180-day extension of conditional final subdivision approval, Harlem Valley Homestead. Whereas on March 6, 2023, the planning board granted the applicant Harlem Valley Homestead LLC, the applicant, conditional preliminary layout and final subdivision approval for a lot line alteration in conjunction with special use permit, site plan, and excuse me, architectural review board approvals to establish a country inn and conference center using use consisting of an agricultural / education center, farm stay lodging, educational workshops, retreats, and events on property located at 132 through 147 Old Forge Road, known as the project. And whereas the parcels involved in the project are identified as tax numbers 7160-00-981478, 7260-00-062777, -089-448-123597, -089-448, and -167790, collectively known as the site, and are located in the Rural District, or RU, and Resource Conservation, or RC, zoning districts, partially within the floodplain, stream corridor, and aquifer overlay districts, and partially within New York State Agricultural District 23. And whereas the subdivision is depicted on a plan entitled Proposed Lot Line Change prepared for Nano's Garden LLC, prepared by Insight Engineering Surveying and Landscape Architecture, PC, dated October 14, 2020, known as the subdivision plat. And whereas approval of the subdivision plat was conditioned on satisfaction of 4 conditions of approval, and whereas pursuant to Section 125-8D, subsection 2 of the Town of Dover subdivision law, conditional approval of the final plat shall expire within 180 days after the resolution granting such approval, unless all requirements stated in such resolution have been certified as completed. And whereas the planning board may, in its discretion, extend the time within which a conditional approval plat must be submitted for signature for not more than 8 180-day extensions. And whereas on August 21, 2023, the planning board granted the applicant a 180-day extension of time to complete the conditions of approval to and including February 29, 2024. And whereas on February 5, 2024, the planning board granted the applicant a second 180-day extension of time to complete the conditions of approval to and including August 27, 2024, and whereas by letter dated July 23, 2024, the applicant requested a third 180-day extension of time to satisfy the conditions of approval, due in part to delay caused by the Article 78 proceeding filed against the planning board challenging the board's approval of the project index number 2023-51139. And whereas the planning board has considered the particular circumstances warranting an extension of the time to complete the conditions of subdivision plat approval, now therefore be it resolved that the planning board hereby grants the applicant a third 180-day extension of time to complete the conditions of final subdivision plat approval to and including February 23, 2025. This resolution is being offered by
So moved.
Member Sador, seconded by Member LaRobediere. Discussion. Okay, seeing no discussion. Resolution to grant third 180-day extension of conditional final subdivision approval, Harlem Valley Homestead. Secretary, please call the roll.
Member Sador,
Aye.
Member Roman. Aye. Member Palmer,
Aye.
Member LaRobediere,
Aye.
Chair Courtine.
Aye. This resolution is adopted 5-0 with 2 absences. Okay. Next is extension of the special use permit. Right.
I can give a quick presentation on that, if that's okay. So the way you're, even though the resolution of approval for the project that's so defined, written the way it was written as one combined unit, the zoning code as opposed to the subdivision codes have different time limitations for the duration of those permits. So unlike the subdivision, which is based on up to 8 180-day extensions within the initial 180 days, the way the section 145-62H1 and section 145-68E1 relative to site plan and special permits is that they expire if you don't have the building permits or comply with all the conditions within 18 months. and you can get up to 2 one-year extensions at your discretion. So we are asking for a first one-year extension for each the site plan and the special permit. But it's, we've been working on those conditions of approval, which are numerous, and we're moving in a very good clip. One surprise that we did have, if you are aware of, is that in September of 2023, 6 months after we actually had our approval, and even though DEC had been an involved agency in our seeker, as part of our speedy permit, DEC asked us, because of the location in a disadvantaged community, mapping per DEC, to prepare a public participation plan for our speedies, which included, even though we had I think 27 meetings to approve you all, but they asked us to do an additional Zoom public participation meeting, which we did, and we did that.
That was recent, right?
On July 17th. That was finished, and we believe that the DEC permit will be coming soon, but obviously haven't fulfilled that condition, so, and that was a surprise. So in addition to obviously the time that was eaten up concomitant with the subdivision relative to the Article 17, we also had that additional wrinkle that we were able to fulfill, and hopefully, I'm hoping by end of Q3 we have that permit from DEC.
Okay. You're defining end of Q3 as the end of September.
And September 30th, yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Any members of the planning board have any comments, questions? Okay. Attorney Polidoro, I think you did a pretty good job explaining our code,
Yes, you did wonderful.
angling for your job. Careful.
The only thing I wanted to point out is, as we were going through the list of approvals, you have not received your erosion and sediment control permit yet. So
Correct.
you'll have to come back at some point and apply for that again and go through that process.
Okay, wait, sorry. This is why you know your code better than I do. We should have asked for an extension at some point in that.
I think we'll keep it.
Separately, or do we actually have to get that permit?
Well, it does need to be extended once it's received, but I couldn't recreate the whole puzzle today, but as I went back and looked, we pulled it out of the resolution of approval at the time and said that we were not granting it.
Okay.
So it might have been that you didn't have the numbers ready or some piece was missing, so.
And I think I don't want to get out ahead of Joe, but I think we may have had some conversations. I do know we need to work with you. We're obviously going to do a letter of credit, but we need to work on the surety, which I'll contact you about that form of surety, and for both the erosion sediment control and obviously the roadway.
Right, but first, I guess we have to issue erosion and sediment control.
Yes, I will follow up with you after this to get that done. Thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah, the missing piece was the bond calculation, which has now been presented to me. And I have submitted to the board my approval of it,
Okay.
recommendation to accept.
And that's the third
That was
resolution.
what was lacking last time, Victoria.
Okay,
My notes, I looked through it too. We pulled it because there was no bond estimate.
so I guess we'll just have to discuss offline whether we consider that application still open and what we need to do to move it forward.
All right. We're still going to move forward with the third resolution then
Yes.
about the bond. So, okay. All right. Planner Werner, anything?
No comments on this one.
All right. Okay. So, members of the planning board, having heard from our consultants, any comments, questions on resolution to grant a one-year extension of site plan and special use permit approval?
Nothing.
Oh, okay. All right. Resolution to grant one-year extension of site plan and special use permit approval, Harmony Valley Homestead. Whereas, I just recently read the first and second paragraphs, and whereas the project would support an existing and active agricultural use on the site, and whereas the project includes the widening / paving of portions of Old Forge Road, as well the reconfiguration of the Old Forge Road Route 55 intersection, as well as. And whereas the project is depicted on, among other things, the list of submissions attached as Exhibit A to this resolution, And whereas the subdivision is depicted on a plan entitled Proposed Lot Line Change prepared for Nano's Garden LLC, prepared by Insight Engineering, Surveying and Landscape Architecture PC, dated October 14, 2020, known as the subdivision plat. And whereas approval of the site plan was conditioned on satisfaction of 10 conditions of approval, and whereas pursuant to Section 145-62H of the Dover zoning law, a special use permit shall expire if the applicant fails to obtain the necessary building permits within 18 months of its issuance, and whereas pursuant to Section 145-68E of the Dover zoning law, site plan approval shall expire if the applicant fails to obtain the necessary building permits within 18 months of its issuance, and whereas pursuant to, this again.
I'm sure Mr. Alexander will back me up on those section numbers, but
I just read the word out section.
I don't know. Whereas pursuant to Section 145-62H and 145-68E, the Dover zoning law, the planning board may, in its discretion, grant up to 2 one-year extensions of special use permit and site plan approval. And whereas by letter dated July 24, 2024, the applicant requested an extension of site plan and special use permit approval in order to assist the ongoing efforts to develop the property and aid financing. Now therefore be it resolved that the planning board hereby grants the applicant a 1-year extension of site plan and special use permit approval through September 6, 2025, subject to all the terms and conditions set forth in the resolution granting approval on March 6, 2023. It is not the responsibility of the planning board to track the time within which your approval expires. You will not receive any notification from the town. This resolution is being offered by
So moved.
Member Louverture, seconded by Member Roman. Discussion? You just write out section. You don't use a fancy.
Can't find the
Character?
section when
Oh,
I'm texting. So I've gotten in the habit.
okay. All right. Any further discussion? Seeing no further discussion, resolution to grant 1-year extension of site plan and special use permit approval, Harmony Lane Homestead. If Secretary, please call the roll.
Member Sador?
Aye.
Member Roman?
Aye.
Member Palmer?
Aye.
Member LaRobediere?
Aye.
Chair Corteen?
Aye. Resolution is adopted, 5-0 with 2 absences. Go on to resolution to recommend amount of performance guarantee, Harm Valley Homestead road paving. Anything you wanted to say, Mr. Alexander?
I'm sorry, I actually was not fully apprised on this one, so I'll defer to however that number was arrived at. I'm assuming Josh and, I think Josh and others went back and forth. I think we're good. Yeah, I think we're good. I just read the resolution, we're comfortable with that.
The number came from Insight with my review.
Okay. Anything further to add? Any of our consultants?
No, my recommendation is to accept it.
Okay. All right. Attorney Polidoro, any?
so one of the conditions
concern?
was that they pave a portion of Old Forge Road. So this performance guarantee, we're recommending the amount, but they'll need to go before the town board as far as the substance and type of guarantee that the town's willing to accept.
Oh, okay, I didn't know, right, the resolution says town attorney.
Yeah.
Thank you. So we'll take it up with the town attorney as to the form of the letter of credit as a surety.
Any members of the planning board have any comments, questions? I guess just for everyone's, this is just if you start the project and don't finish it, the town comes after you for this money and then town finishes it.
Right, this ensures that the project gets completed.
Right.
And if they walk away, the town can pull the bond, and there was an extra, I believe, 10% put in because the town has to pay higher labor rates. Hopefully that
So
doesn't
the
happen.
public's aware of what this is, because it's a big number, so, okay. All right, seeing no further discussion, resolution to recommend amount of performance guarantee, Harlem Valley Homestead road paving, whereas Whereas on March 6, 2023, the planning board granted the applicant Holland Valley Homestead LLC, the applicant, special use permit, site plan, and architectural review board approval in conjunction with conditional preliminary layout and final subdivision approval for a lot line alteration to establish a country and conference center use consisting of an agricultural/education center, farm stay lodging, educational workshops, retreats, and events on property located at 132 through 147 Old Forge Road, known as the project. And whereas the project includes the widening/paving of portions of Old Forge Road, as well as reconfiguration of the Old Forge Road Route 55 intersection. And whereas the applicant has submitted a cost estimate for the paving of Old Forge Road in the amount of $428,000. And whereas by letter dated August 19, 2024, the planning board engineer approved the cost estimate for the paving of Old Forge Road. Now therefore be it resolved that the planning board hereby recommends that the town board accept the performance guarantee for the paving of Old Forge Road in the amount of $428,000 in form, substance, and manner of execution acceptable to the town attorney and town board. This resolution is being offered by
So moved.
Member Roman,
Second.
seconded by Member Sador. Discussion.
None.
All right, seeing no discussion, resolution to recommend amount of performance guarantee, Harlem Valley Homestead Road paving. Secretary, please call the roll.
Member Sador?
Aye.
Member Roman?
Aye.
Member Palmer?
Aye.
Member LaRobier? Chairman Cortine?
Aye. This resolution is adopted 5-0 with 2 absences. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
And we'll follow up with, on erosion. It sounds like we all need to check, or at least we need to check our notes. It sounds like we may have already.
Yeah, we'll have to sort that out.
Yep, great, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Hello. Oh, thank you. I should pass these around.
You should.
All right.
Thank you.
And here's another one. I'll give you mine when we're.
Okay.
All right. Oh, okay. Yep.
What's he doing?
Good evening.
Good evening, Chairman, board members, and town staff and town consultants. My name's Joe Fernandez. I'm the architect of the project. And I wanted to briefly begin by just reviewing some of the past, because this project has a little bit of history.
Can you just bring the microphone a little closer?
I'm not sure that the,
It should be on. Someone turn it off. One second. Can you hear him on the microphone? Hi. Can you hear him on the microphone? Okay, thank you. We think the batteries might have gone.
okay.
Just give us a minute.
I'll try to talk louder.
Oh, it just won't pick it up. Just give us a minute. It'll be over. Thank you, Member Plummer.
Well,
Oh, I thought he was grabbing the microphone.
So
Like-
turn-
Okay, I guess the previous person turned it off. All right, we're all set.
Okay,
We're all set, thank you.
okay.
All right.
So I just wanted to review some of the past history with this building. The prior owner, prior to my client purchasing the building, had been issued a demolition permit to demolish a structure that was on the site back in '96.
Okay.
And then he was issued a permit to construct a new restaurant under two separate permit applications in September of '96. And the permits were extended in '99 and then in 2001. And he paid fees and fines to the town for those delays. The work that was done within the structure, walls and insulation, drywall, wiring, furnace, all had been inspected by the town. The septic design had been approved by DC DOH back in '96. And that's something that we now will revisit. We're going to have the design professional who was originally involved, who's still in business, look into that along with a subject matter expert and the Department of Health as well to get that approved.
Okay.
We had received, the previous owner had received a letter from New York State DOT back in '96 for that they had made a site visit and they had approved and accepted the entrance to the property. The entrance was created and has been in existence, although not been used since '96. And however, we're not planning on making any changes to that location. So we're going to keep that in the same exact spot. The previous owner had applied to this board back in '96 for a site plan approval. Unfortunately, that process was never completed. The building was completed, but the owner, I guess, had some other things going on, and he never opened the location. So my client has owned the property now for several years, and he's been searching for a suitable tenant. And they believe they found one now, and they're looking forward to making these necessary improvements along with some added aesthetic features to enhance the look of the building. We did just recently receive some comments from the town's engineer, and we started to review and address those, and I'm not quite sure if we're going to talk about those now, but there are a few that I would like to touch on if you're not going to review them all.
I mean, you're the representative of the applicant, you can talk about basically anything you want.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you have those on the,
These
on
are
this.
from AKRF? Yeah, so I'm the planner for the
Yes.
board. Joe is the engineer.
Yes.
So you spoke with who?
I spoke with,
The planner.
no, I spoke with no one.
I just
I
the
just said
memo
we-
that you received was sent to the applicant as well on Friday, so.
Yeah, we just received the comments, I said, that's
Okay.
all. So
Okay.
we started to address them internally.
I'm sorry, I thought you said you spoke with the town engineer.
No.
No, no, no.
Okay.
Okay. I mean, I was gonna go through these, but if you wanna,
Well, I can defer, I mean, that's fine.
yeah, I can go through them, and then as we go, we can talk about it.
Great, that would work.
Okay, so, any members of the planning board have any comments or questions at this time?
You want to present the new parking you're putting in and the rest?
Yeah,
Sure, we can talk about it as we get through his comments,
Okay.
because I think that parking, which I think is down
Yep.
further in his comments, 11, we'll get to that.
Yep. Okay, we'll start from the beginning then. Okay.
Okay.
So they're seeking site plan approval from the planning board for this I guess reoccupancy.
So site plan approval and, I guess, ARB, because I understand that they're
It's one of the, yeah. it's
two
tied- they-
hats.
Yep, well, they travel together typically.
Okay.
Yep, but it's not a special use permit, this is, permitted use, it's just the building's been there, kind of just not being used for quite a while.
My understanding is it's never been used.
Never been occupied, it's got grass around it, it doesn't have any parking lot.
Right.
Interesting case. So,
You can see from this is what I was, how do we get this back?
Excuse me?
How do we get this back?
What'd you do, Liz?
Yeah, the thing right at the top that anybody would click on. I clicked on.
Hopefully it's not in garbage. Oh.
Thank you. Right, so I mean, you could see from the aerial access from the year 2000 that there's some vehicles around it, but it's just grass. There's never been a parking lot there.
right.
Okay.
Okay, so the first comments was just raised that Marilyn noticed this, so we just wanted to echo it. The parcel number was listed incorrectly throughout the application, so just correct that. This is a major project, in our opinion, per the town code, just because of the disturbance is necessary to build the parking, and overall disturbance on the lot would exceed that threshold. So technically, it's a major project. It does require a public hearing and a long-form EAF. There was a short form submitted with the application, but it was the very old version of the form. So our comments further down are to fill out the long form and fill out pursuant to the EAF mapper and through the DEC website, which will get you a partially completed form that you fill out the rest. We'll get to that. Number 3. This does require a referral to the county because it's along Route 22, which is a state highway. That's a 239M referral. I don't think it's ready to go just yet, but that will be something that can be done in the future.
May I ask why?
Typically, we need the full application, including the EAF that's required.
Understood.
And we have some comments on I think the grading plan wasn't provided. There's, usually the full set, including the seeker materials should all go to the county, and we don't have that right now.
Understood.
Okay. So you mentioned the DOT, this requires, I don't know if that permit, if it's been granted, is it valid still, or is that something that needs to get reissued?
So, I mean, it was granted in 96 and it was built.
Okay.
Was a certificate of occupancy issued, though?
For the building?
No, for the septic system. They give you.
Not septic, no, we're talking about the, I'm sorry, the road.
Highway
Road.
permit.
The DOT also gives you a compliance certificate. Have you received that from the DOT?
So, I have a letter here from the state. I could show it to you.
Let's see if it's what we're asking for. This is just this would be what they consider a letter of notice that the permit would be acceptable if the forms in permit was issued. So that's not a
Completion?
acceptance by DOT letter. That's a conceptual letter of approval, which is what we would use when going for an approval, had it been valid, but it was not one of accepting it.
Okay.
There's a different type of letter you get when the work is done
Right.
and it's been accepted.
So do they need to contact the DOT out in
Yes.
Poughkeepsie to figure this out?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, just noting that this is subject to a highway work permit. The status of that seems to be unclear, but it's required for the access off 22. Number 5, the plan does show the septic system in the rear. We questioned if it was sized for what's happening now. If I don't know what the building was approved for originally, but now it's a restaurant, so that's subject to Joe's review. But it's I guess do you have any information about that sizing and?
Well, I have what was written, however, I'm not sure what was built, and that's why we're getting the original design professional, who's still in Baldwin, involved, and along with
So,
size correctly for our restaurant. I mean, they had it sized for a restaurant, but I believe it was only 60 seats.
okay, and this is like 93, I think?
Yes.
Okay.
So there's actually more to that. With 93 seats, even with the minimum 35 gallons per seat, you're going to be well over 1,000 gallons, which means even if the Dutchess County Health Department had approved it and given you permission to use, it would have had a concurrent, brand-new Speedies permit that would have been renewed, and you would have to have a current Speedies permit, even if it was built and not used. But if it was accepted by the health department without the continuation of the Speedies permit. So over 1,000 gallons, it's only county health department, it's good for as long as it's been there. Once you get 1,001, you pay for a 3-year permit. And the permit is good, but you have to renew it every 3 years, or the approval by DEC to use that system goes away.
Right.
Now, you could retroactively get that Speedies permit sometimes, but not always, but there is a process. But I would recommend that this board would want to see a approved Speedies permit reissued, or the process of the approval be conditional upon getting a new Speedies permit.
So Engineer Berger, the septic field, does an existing septic fields to be certified by engineer. So in 2000, there's little to no trees in that area, and now there are. Is that a concern that there's trees growing out of this septic field?
Yes,
potentially?
they'd have to be removed. There's a process by which you could remove the trees, inspect the system, make sure it's still in the proper condition. An engineer would do that. But then that would also have to go through the process of verifying that the Speedies permit is current as well. And if that's going to be under the parking lot, I don't know if it's going to. Okay.
No, it's not.
That's also a separate issue if it's under the parking lot. But
No, it's not.
But more importantly is, your engineer will certify to the health department. The health department will accept it, and the DEC will you'll either show that you have a concurrent Speedies permit that's been renewed since whenever 96, or that you're applying for and obtained a new or an updated one.
You want to talk about ESC too? Because that's basically
Okay.
number 6 anyway, so we're rolling right into that.
So you were stating the thing that you were under 1 acre. So you don't have to do a state stormwater permit, but you do have to do a erosion control permit, Chapter 65, which is similar but not under the purview of the state of New York. Only this board controls that. And there's in Chapter 65, we have to still do a rudimental drainage study to show stormwater is maintained on the site and not going off-site and causing any issues, as well as proper erosion control as recommended by New York State.
So we did provide some calculations and a design.
Okay. It has to be okay, we'll look that over and see. But there's a whole guideline and there's standards within our book under Chapter 65 of all the things you need to provide with soils, testing. I won't go through all the elements, but they're listed in the Chapter 65, all the elements. If you feel that there is sections within Chapter 65 that are not relevant, you could ask this board to waive those sections, and you would have to provide with your report a statement of waiver that you want these 5 or 6 sections of Chapter 65 to be waived, and the reason why. and the planning board will consider that.
Okay, moving on to number 7, just noting that this is subject to the ARB review, and they have provided elevations, and this was handed out too tonight.
And again, just to be clear, like, so the planning board is acting as an architectural review board because we changed the town code some years ago so that, well, the town board did, so that if there is no architectural review board, there would still be an architectural review done by the planning board. So they could still create an architecture, they could still put members on an architectural review board so that there is one, but in absence of that, then we are the architectural review board. Just, go ahead.
We also recommended that this go to the fire company as well for our preliminary review. It could be the version that was submitted in July, or if they're going to make updates to address some of these comments, we can wait for that. But I think it's important to get their feedback if we're, proposing a new restaurant. Right now, there's no parking. There's obviously been no response to this area, and they might want to just review that they can get around the site safely and et cetera.
So two things on that. Part of it goes to a future comment we make about parking, but I think parking will be unfortunately decreased because we don't have the room for islands and excessive
Right.
trees and what have you. Although we have put them around the perimeter of the entire site, including along the roadway as a buffer. But I think that when we do get some feedback from the fire chief about his apparatus and turning radius, I'm concerned about just the back section. He can come in, he can make the turn, but I'm not sure he's going to clear it. So we may lose a spot there on the very top end here.
Thing right here.
Yes, correct. And they'll be able to address 3 sides of the building, which is what code talks about. So-
Yeah, we still like to get them something to them
Oh, no, no,
from them in
100%.
writing, just to
I
say.
want to get it as well.
Yep.
And I think, when we get to your comment number 11, we'll talk about the front section of parking, but I want to
Sure.
defer it till that.
We're almost there. Okay, so then going into number 9, we didn't notice if there was a grading plan submitted as part of this, but that's something that Joe's going to want to look at as well. I think there was some confusion in that there's the lighting plan lines are shown, which are kind of confusing. I think those should just be confined to a separate lighting plan that's separate from the site plan.
So these are not topo lines?
Those look like lighting lines to me.
So if you go, there is another sheet, and I believe it's towards the front of this set, that has, all right, so then it's further down.
Okay.
No, the other way, sorry, keep going,
Going up,
down.
going down.
Keep going, next sheet. Yes, so this shows the photometrics for the whole site,
Mhm.
and
There's
one
light.
of your comments talks about spill onto neighbor's property, but I think if you look, no,
Oh, yeah, just looking for any topo lines. Go ahead.
okay. There probably aren't, it's a flat site, but.
Sure.
It'll show something, but the values are very small. I mean, they're 0.1 foot candles, which, that's almost darkness. And generally, that's in every municipality, they talk about not having anything spill over. But when you get to that level, we kind of feel like you're fine. We did specify RAB fixtures, which are adjustable, so they can be adjusted, and those numbers can be swayed. That's just with the light at, 90 degrees. So,
Okay.
you can see the light fixtures that are there, and, so.
Just back on number 9 on the site plan set, I think you have a separate lighting plan, that's fine, I think eliminating the foot candle lines from your main site plan drawing
Yeah,
would be a good idea, because it just makes it
From here.
confusing.
You're saying
Yeah,
from this?
Yeah.
It would make it cleaner.
yes,
Sure.
it would.
Okay.
Yeah, we're also asking for the, if there's signage, if you can provide, the conceptual, location, height, size, materials, design of the signage. I didn't see an existing conditions survey, which is usually required for these site plan sets. The limit of disturbance area would be nice to have on there. And also, we're asking for the truck turning diagrams, the auto turn analysis, showing that you can navigate the site with fire trucks and delivery trucks. Okay, then number 10,
Can I just?
go ahead, sure.
One second. So, I mean, we were kind of told that the delivery trucks, we have a section in the back of the plan which has basically, we reduced an area that they could come into the back. So essentially, they would stay in the center aisle.
Is that what this is?
Yeah, they would actually pull up here and then just offload, because most of the deliveries are gonna be either very early morning, so that they can start their day, and there wouldn't be any other vehicles in place. So essentially, it's just so
Okay.
that no one else was going to park there and block that, concrete slab to get into the
Okay.
rear, which is where they're gonna take their deliveries.
Okay, that clarifies it. I mean, I thought that was like a spot for the truck to park, which seems a little small, so.
Now it's small.
Yeah.
It's small.
So your idea is to have the trucks pull up and be able to use that as an aisle for moving materials,
Yeah,
okay?
it's 24 feet wide.
Mhm.
I mean, McDonald's does that every day.
Yeah, early morning,
Whenever
if
they
that's
show
the
up.
case, that
Yeah.
makes sense.
And again, I mean, they're gonna take deliveries prior to
Opening,
the public, so
right.
there'd be no other conflicts.
Thank you for clearing that up. So we're on number 10, just
Number
talking
10.
about parking. So there's 42 spaces proposed. The code requires 1 space per 3 seats. So the information we have, which is 93 seats, is technically 31 spaces are required. So they're showing 11 more spaces than is necessary. There's also some issue with the maximum impervious coverage, and that's why I believe you're showing the porous pavement, or, on the east side there. There's a way, I think if you reduce